How can evil exist if God is all good? Now, I know atheists feel like they have done something when they ask this question, and they have displayed their total lack of understanding for reality itself. I mean, God killed so many people that wouldn't bow down to him. Isn't he just a complete narcissist, a total egomaniac? Now, the answer here is so simple, so easy, so pure and logical to understand that those who don't want to. They won't come into the light because the light exposes them entirely. They prefer to hide in the dark because their deeds are evil, and that's it and that's all. It all boils down to this one thing, that every single thing that exists in reality must abide by to exist. No pain, no gain. Now let me give you an example of this so easy even a child could understand, and I mean a young one. If this mighty oak tree, starting from a tiny sapling, didn't get continually pummeled by the thunderstorms that roll through here, it wouldn't have the strength to stand under its own weight. How'd they find this out? They grew a bunch of trees in a windless environment and they all fell over when they got too big. Turns out that the strength required to sustain growth comes from an external source of pain. A direct equivalent of this example is character. If somebody reaches success without developing character, it's only going to destroy them. You see, the tree in the windless environment, it can get tall and then it's going to fall over for certain. Direct equivalent of that would be tempering steel. You can forge the sword, you can quench the sword, but then it's brittle. You've got to temper that steel with heat after the fact, which is to heat it up until the crystalline structure in the steel comes into a consistent pattern. A consistent pattern can be applied to character. In the case of the tree, the wind is what tempers it and builds its character, if you will, gives it the strength to endure its own weight, its own mission, its own goals. Without that external source of pain being applied, there is no strength to sustain growth, and we're all here to grow. So we're gonna need that strength. Not just humans, everything. How does coal become diamonds? Pressure and heat. You know why so many Americans are obese and unhealthy? That's because going to the gym hurts and eating healthy food is not as pleasurable. Without sacrificing comfort and pleasure, there is no health. You see, most people think that the goal of life is to be as comfortable and have as much pleasure as possible. And maybe so at the very end, that's called retirement. You're supposed to sacrifice and work as much as you can while you're young so that you don't have to later in life when you can't. But most people want that comfort and pleasure without putting in any work, no sacrifice, no pain at all. And then wonder why they ain't got nothing and blame everybody else and wish that somebody would just give it to them. No pain, no gain. Okay? Now for the brethren, let me tell you what the Bible says about this. I could show you too, but I find it makes no difference whether I just say it or show it. You see, God said in Isaiah 45, I form light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Everyone who said that doesn't know what it means, doesn't know who God is, doesn't know much about his creation or the way that he works. I mean, he said it all out very plainly, like all of it. And I mean this literally, guys. Like, the only mysteries here is what it's actually going to be like. That's it, that's all. We know everything. He told us everything. Let me just break it down for you real quick, man. It's all there. I form light and create darkness. We can go to Genesis page 1 and find out what that means. Notice the difference in words. Form light, create darkness. If you want to form light, you're first gonna have to create darkness. How do I know that? That's what he did. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. What did he create? Darkness. What did he do next? And God said, let there be light. And he saw the light, that it was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. God created the darkness, formed the light in it, and then divided the light from it. I form light and create darkness. He creates the darkness first so that he can form the light in it. So when he says, I make peace and create evil, which of those is first, make or create? God made Adam from the dust after he created the earth. So to make peace, he must first create evil. Let me give you a direct example of this. The Hebrews being formed as a nation in Egypt, in bondage, the darkness that light was formed in. What came first, Israel or Egypt? Egypt. Before Jacob was born, Egypt was a nation. Where was the nation of Israel while the Hebrews were in bondage in Egypt? It was there being formed. God has made it clear that slavery is one method he uses to build new nations, as in forging a new sword in the fire, teaching them everything not to be, like unto forming the light in the darkness. You're not darkness, you're light. Let's just take this all the way. The people, the oppressors that he uses to oppress a nation being formed, he uses them because they are willing to be the oppressors, and then he destroys them because he told them not to do that. And he does all of this because of that new nation that he was forming. In the nation he created, if you will. It's literally as simple as tilling a new garden bed, which is great evil to all the stuff that is there, forming a plant in that soil, and I mean putting a seed in it, and then watching a funny thing happen. That plant will divide from that soil. Okay, it's above it. It's evident and evidently not the dirt. The sword is not the fire of the forge, but the fire of the forge is necessary if you want to make a sword. And I know this causes some people to be real angry with God. Why didn't he just do it a different way? What different way? Do you know of one? You know a different way to grow tomatoes? You gonna use the hydroponics? Well, the hydroponic system is the evil then. Ask the dude that had to pay for it and set it all up. What a nightmare. Too many people don't know what the word evil means. So if we're all plants in a garden and the gardener comes and we watch, and he plucks some of us up for his own purposes, well, several of the plants in the garden might shake their fist at him. How dare you, you egomaniac! But then some of the plants are like, whoa, he put us here for a reason and we better do that. And in the case of the plants shaking their fist at God, or the people, it's just an example. The people shaking their fist at God, what is God, a man? Do the plants shake their fist at the gardener thinking that he's one of them? The gardener is not a plant in the garden. He has all authority and power over the plants in the garden because it's his garden planted for his purposes. The plants are under strict rules, and if they don't abide, they get plucked up by the gardener and thrown into the walking path and trampled underfoot. But the gardener is not under the same rules that he has given to the plants. Those are rules for plants. Now, if the gardener somehow became a plant and then broke his own rules, now he's guilty. If the gardener comes and becomes a plant and starts killing all the other plants in the garden, breaking his own rules, now he's a narcissist and a maniac. But he did that. God manifest in the flesh to be a man, a plant in his garden here, earth. And he kept all of his own rules perfectly, didn't hurt anybody, and as a matter of fact, repaid no evil for evil. He let them kill him on the cross, didn't do any evil as a man on the earth. But then he ascended back into heaven, and now he's the gardener again. And he always was. Even while he was here, he was still the gardener up there. It's kind of like sitting on your couch to play Nintendo. You can be yourself and Mario at the same time without getting up off the couch, you know? But Job even accused him, you don't know what it's like to be a man down here. We have to live by your rules. You don't know what it's like. You don't have to do it. And God was like, nah, wait, I'm gonna. And then he did, and as God walking around as a man on earth, there is not a human being alive that can lay any charge to his account, though they did falsely accuse him and killed him. And he wasn't guilty of anything at all, and not even like a little bit. So the gardener came to become a plant, and what he did while he was here was instruct the other plants how to be successful plants. And they killed him for it. And when he comes back as the gardener, you don't think he's gonna set that right? He certainly is. He must. He's got a plan for his garden, and these plants ain't doing it. And he lets them decide whether they will or whether they won't, but he tells them what's gonna happen if they do or if they don't. So it's not a mystery. I mean, it's written right on the DNA. It's called your conscience. Everybody knows the rules. You break them often enough, you get real comfortable breaking them, and then your conscience stops telling you anything, because what good does that do? And then you run blind headlong into the consequences. It's perfect if-then logic. If you obey, then you will live. If you do not, then you will die. He who endures to the end must be saved. If you can't endure, you can't build character, can't build strength, there's no need for growth. It's just gonna kill you is all. Now, I've probably done a poor job of conveying my point. I'm always disappointed in myself in these videos. But those of you who want to hear, I feel like will. And those that don't, I know, will not. Because you don't want to.